Hello and welcome to another episode of Laptop Retrospective, and today I am happy to bring you the Microsoft Surface Pro 3. This was probably the definitive Surface model because all Surfaces that have come since then pretty much follow this design. It is very striking in comparison to what it was originally. Over here, just off screen, I actually do have one of the original Surfaces, and as you can tell, they're really not alike in any way whatsoever. So I wanted to quickly point out the differences before we dived into the Pro 3. First things first, the Surface Pro 3 was released in June of 2014, and it was the first in the Surface line to actually have fully fledged CPUs, no Y models or any other power sippers, and that was a really nice change to see. However, the most iconic thing about these new models was this delightful hinge that could pretty much put the device at any conceivable angle that you wanted. It could go as shallow as 22 degrees and all the way to 150 degrees. If you recall from my previous video on the Surface Pro and Pro 2, they only had two positions on the earlier models, if that at all. We can also see that the bulk of the machine has been significantly reduced, and they have finally settled with the 3:2 aspect ratio on the display. Now, in terms of specifications for the Surface Pro 3, this is actually no slouch. It came in 3 flavors, and depending on which one of these processors you got, gave you access to other specifications as well. And I'll do my best to explain that now. The lowest tier available was the Intel Core i3 4020Y, and that came coupled with HD graphics 4200, 4 gigabytes of RAM, and 64 gigabytes of storage only. The next one that we have is the i5 variant, which this one belongs to, and that is the Core i5 4300U, and this would be coupled with HD graphics 4400 and either 4 or 8 gigabytes of onboard RAM. It also shipped by default with either a 128 or 256 gig SSD. This one is sporting 8 gigs and 256 gigabytes of storage. The final variant that was available was the Core i7 4650U, which would feature HD 5000 graphics, 8 gigabytes of RAM, and 3 storage options of either 128, 256, or 512 gigabytes of solid-state storage. Regardless of all of those, you had a variety of ports that we will quickly tour now. On the right-hand side of the machine, we have the dock connector. We've got USB 3.0 and mini DisplayPort. Along the top, we have the power button. Down the left-hand side of the machine, we have the headphone microphone combo jack and the volume rocker. It is also worth noting underneath the kickstand in this corner here, we do have access to the micro SD card slot, and that could handle up to 200 gigabytes of storage. On the inside of this device, we actually have a 9-hour battery, which was being powered from a 42 watt-hour cell. As you can imagine, that battery life will vary depending on the CPU RAM configurations on the inside of the machine. This, of course, supports the Smart Type cover as well as the Surface Pen, making it a very formidable device, especially on the used market at the end of 2020. These devices start approximately at 250 Canadian dollars and move upward. The downside, of course, is that these are not as easily serviceable as other machines in that class and in that price point. So if you are looking for other tablet computers, but you're looking for something that is a bit more serviceable, then you might want to start thinking about other devices such as the ThinkPad X230T, or just really start thinking outside the box in terms of what you need that computer to do. If you are in the market for finding one of these used, I would recommend that you get it in the best condition possible, as parts and servicing, as I previously mentioned, can be a bit tricky. If it's missing the type cover or pen, those are easily replaced and not at a great expense with many third-party pens being available, several of which I've actually tested on this channel. Unsurprisingly, the boot time on these things is considerably snappy, considering it has 8 gigabytes of RAM as well as a solid-state drive, not to mention 4th gen Intel CPUs. So let's go ahead and do a quick boot test here. It is worth noting, if you do have the red screen, that usually means that your bootloader is unlocked. It's nothing malicious, but Microsoft wants you to believe that it is. And as you can see, we're already inside of the operating system. This is really a nice piece of budget kit, in my opinion, because if you want a touch surface, well, Surfaces are really considered top of the line in that class. And the nice part is that because these are really out of favor at this point, you can pick these up at a relatively low price, as previously mentioned. Now, one thing that I will certainly say that is worth chasing down is actually the Surface dock. And I actually have one of those over here just off to the side. And these docks aren't super expensive if you can find them, and they have a lot to offer. These are quite fantastic pieces of kit if you want a desktop setup. Along the backhand, it will provide power. We do have a DisplayPort connector. We have 2 USB 2.0, 2 USB 3.0, Ethernet, a headphone microphone combo jack, a USB 3.0 on the side for easy access, as well as Surface Pen storage. And then over here we have a Kensington lock slot. Using the dock is actually quite simple, really. It expands and contracts on the side, and these mechanisms are usually in pretty good shape. The one thing that you will need to note is that the clearance with the keyboard can be a bit tight. You get used to it after a while. So it's just a matter of dropping it in, lining it up. Sometimes that keyboard cover will get in the way, but eventually you do get used to it. Sometimes flipping it down makes it a lot easier to connect. And if we need more desk space, we can of course remove this, plug in any other keyboards and mouse accessories that we'd like. And if we wanted to go to sleep, we can still flip the top cover up, clear our space, and when we're ready to work again, we can simply just flip the keyboard cover down, hit one of the keys, and we're back in action. Quite honestly, if I needed a cheap and inexpensive setup for something like this, it's an easy recommendation at the end of 2020. See if you can find one for a few $100s that's in good shape. Primarily the screen's going to be the big one. And make sure it's got enough storage for your needs. But quite frankly, I've always found the Surface devices to be rather appealing just because of how well thought out they were and of course their build quality. A few other things that I will mention if you are looking to purchase one of these is that if it does come with a type cover that is in a bit rough shape, that's not actually something to fret about so long as there's no damage, rips, or tears. If there is just some light dirt, as there is on this one, we see some wear marks from where a palm would have rested. We also see a few dirt marks above the trackpad here. This is actually very easy to deal with, as well as getting rid of some marks and other discoloration on here that we would normally see from sweat and grime and buildup like that. And if you want to see a full tutorial on how to do it, I'll leave a link up in the corner here so where you can actually see that happen. But as you can see on this one, we do have just a tiny bit of cleaning that probably would be advantageous for us to do before we would start using this. Or if you're looking to sell it, you want it to be in the best possible shape. Not to spoil too much in that other video, but some good eyeglass cleaner and a soft cloth does everything that you need it to do. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you enjoyed this quick overview of what I think to be one of the most iconic devices out there. If you do have any questions about this one, please feel free to leave them in the comment section down below. And as always, I'll encourage you to do the big four. Please like the video, share, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so the next time I'm able to feature an update in my Surface series, you'll be the first to know about it. Thank you so much, and I will see you next time.